Hey there, party! Cartoon Lark here with some more Dungeon Master tips to make your game the best one ever. Today I want to talk about pacing your games, especially when you're dealing with a larger party. Now, my party, when I play, is usually 6 players or more. Typically, we have 7, 8, 9. We've gone as far as having 12 players at our table, all at the same time. And the hard part about that is pacing out the game. I've heard that each event that you do, either a combat or a speaking, like an NPC just talking event, can take longer and longer when you have a bigger party. But we have found that that is not always the case. Each night, what we try to do is have 3 to 5 events. Again, these can be NPC interactions or combats every single night at the game table. And we only play 3 to 4 hours. So we're getting an event done an hour or more than that every time that we play. And the key here is for the DM to pace the game just right. Now, the first thing that we want to do is we want to have a plan, Dungeon Masters. We have to decide, you know what? This is what the party can do. And I want to make room for error because parties always think of things that we never thought of, which is okay. If you're starting a new campaign and doing a session 1, here's how you want to set up. This is where we begin. That's our hometown. The party is only going to have a couple things to do. We can do this or we can do this, and maybe this will lead to that. But whatever the case, we don't want to give them a ton of options because then they're going to spend forever just deciding what to do. Now, we'll get to how those work in just a second, but the first thing I want to talk about is how are we going to describe the world in such a way that they don't get distracted and it doesn't stretch out this first event. If they're arriving in a new town, quick descriptions are a great way to get the party moving. Okay, you walk into a town, there's a few buildings, there's a job board, and you see one man hammering some jobs onto the board. That's a quick description. It's easy to understand, and maybe you've already given the party an idea of where they're going to be. You're in the woods, you're in the mountains, or whatever the case. This way, we're getting right to the action. What do you want to do? And that's where the party can take over. Now, if you want to give them options more than just a few buildings, you might have a map of the town ready, be it something that you've drawn quickly or something that you've spent a lot of time on. Either way, you can just hold it up and show them, okay, you're at this crossroads here, the signboard is there with the guy hammering it in, there's a building here, 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 and here, and you can smell there's a blacksmith shop there. Now we've got a few options and we have a few things that we can do as the party. Another thing we want to do is we want to use the characters, our NPCs, to get things moving quickly. So if the party gets stuck and you give them all the description, they're like, what do we want to do? Do you want to check out the building? We know there's a blacksmith shop. Do we want to talk to the guy? Have NPCs jump in and introduce themselves to the party. Why not? Have them do that. People do that in real life. It's not unrealistic, especially if you have a person of import. For example, maybe the party strolls in and they're an adventuring group and the person hammering the things turns around and he happens to be the mayor. Well, he's got new people in his town. He's going to want to introduce himself. He walks up and says, hi, I'm Levi, and I'm the mayor of this town. What brings you here? And the adventurers may already know what's going on, or they may have no idea what's going on. And in that case, they make it up on the spot based on their character's description and backgrounds and goals and ideals. Whatever the case, now you've got an NPC getting the conversation going. And the NPC can say, oh, I just posted a couple jobs on the job board. We're a burgeoning town and we can use adventurers' help as often as possible. Try not to make enemies first thing to your party, especially if they're going to be a good party. Let them feel like they're the good guys and they're there to help. Let them feel that. It's assumed that adventurers are good guys. So now, Mayor Levi is hammering that nail. Tell you what, I've got a couple jobs for you. You guys can help us out in the lumber yards. We've been getting attacked by animals every month. It's crazy down there, and the next attack is due in about 6 days or so. Or, I know Brudius has been asking for some help at the blacksmith shop. Okay, so you just gave the party 2 options to do. You've got Brudius at the blacksmith shop, and you've got helping out the lumberjacks. And maybe you talk to some other NPCs in town, but here's the deal. When there's some problem with a town, that is all anybody's been talking about. If this quarantine has taught us anything, that is the only thing people talk about is the problems going on. So every NPC that the party can go to, you can have them related to one of those 2 situations. They go into this house, hey, we're looking for something to do. Is there anything we can help you with? Oh, my husband Eric, he's working at the lumber yard. You can ask him if he needs anything. So now we're going back to the animal attacks on the lumberyard. We're finding more and more ways to direct the party in one of those 2 directions. Could we call this railroading? If you want to, but we're giving options, and the party could find other things to do, but they're there to play the story, and these are the things that you've got prepared for them. So have those be the main things that everyone in the town is talking about. So now that we've got these NPCs talking about these specific things and breaking up any silences where the party's confused on what to do, they can just walk up to them like, "Oh, you guys look like adventurers. Great. My cousin is actually out at the mountainside. Oh, there's a mountainside? Yeah, there's a mountainside. We have a mine up there. Maybe the parties just want to go explore that. That's possible." So now we've got 3 things ready. We've got Brudius, we've got the forest with Eric, the lumberjack, and we've got the mountainside. But from here, we're going to figure out where the party's going to go. Let's say they don't want to go into the mountains because they don't really know what's there just yet, and they know they've got 6 days before the next animal attack at the lumberyard, so let's check out what's going on at Brudius's shop. Already you know that Brudius's shop, he needs a certain kind of ore that's in the mine. So now you've got this connection here. You go there, you find out, oh yeah, I sent some guys to go get some stuff and they haven't come back for a few hours. Would you check in on that? And your party says sure. Now, in the case of last time we played, what ended up happening was we found that information out. We said, okay, let's go to the lumberyard and see what the deal is there. We left that and we went to the lumberyard. And we found out, turns out the animal attacks have been happening every month. Let's investigate that. So we spent a day here just figuring out what's going on with these animal attacks. We found some animals, we killed the wolves, awesome job. And then we came back to town. And then we went back to Brudius's shop. Now, in that time, our Dungeon Master said, you know what? You skipped the guys that were missing for a few hours. They're dead now. So that mine is still an option, but saving them is no longer an option. You just took one of those events off the table. So when we went back to Brudius, he said, yeah, the guys still haven't shown up. I don't know what's going on. It's been a day you've been gone. Well, let's go check it out. So we went to the mine and we found goblins and we killed all those guys, which was a great combat. And we found the guys we were supposed to rescue were dead. Now, may they have been dead the whole time or died when we got there? Who knows? The Dungeon Master never told us. But he made the import of they've only been missing for an hour a huge part of this, which means we could have saved them if we decided to do the opposite. And I like that. It's a choice with a consequence. Ignoring one can lead to problems with the other, which is an awesome way to have these events have a little more of a timetable on them. Now, a big thing that our Dungeon Master does is skips travel time. And I love this. So we've got an hour walk from the town to the lumberjack yard. What happens in that hour walk? You see trees, and it's cool outside. That's the whole description that we got, and we didn't get it until after, so there's not even anything we could do along the path. It skips the idea of the druid saying, I look for this bush, I look for this branch, I look for this bug, and it allows you to get back to the main part, your events. Any sort of fluff in between should be short, brief, and put in the past tense. So instead of, all right, you guys walk for an hour, and about halfway you see some bushes with some roses, and then a little further you hear an animal in the bushes, and then a little further you make it to the lumberjack yard. Instead, you say, okay, you're going to the lumberjack yard. After about an hour walk of nice cool breezes and a little bit of sunshine through the trees, see, we still got a description, but it's after a walk of this. Now that whole description's in the past tense, and we don't have to listen to the DM go on about it, and we don't have the opportunity to do anything because he already put it in the past tense. We're here at the lumberyard. Let's get to the next event, and we're on to that next thing to do. Now, another thing for the Dungeon Master, as far as combat goes, who do you want to win, the party or the enemies? Typically, if you're a good Dungeon Master and you're kind to your party members, you want the party to win. So the NPCs do not have to do the most tactically perfect thing every time. But you don't want the monsters to be dumb, so you decide this is how this monster fights. Wolves pack up in teams of 2 and go on one party member at a time. That's how they do it. If you got 6 or 7 party members, only 3 or 4 of them are getting attacked with a lot of wolves involved. 2 on one person at a time, and you just keep the attacks coming at them that way. Then as the DM, you don't have to decide different things. You hit a wolf in the side, but it's going to keep attacking because that's how wolves fight. They fight 2 attacking 1 at a time. They'll ignore a few hits until they can get that situation. If you kill one of them, they'll join in with another pack to make it 2 on 1 at a time. Now as a Dungeon Master, you're not trying to figure out, okay, what would they do here? What would they do here? You've already got their main tactic in place. Wolves pair up in 2s and attack 1 party member at a time. Same thing with the goblins. What do goblins do? Goblins run away and ready in action. And that's what the goblins do every time. They make space and they ready in action. So when the party tries to approach, they get hit as a reaction. That's how goblins fight. Unless there's no other option, they run away and they ready in action. If the party isn't approaching, they throw whatever weapon they have. If you make goblins fight in a certain way and you just stick to that, the DM's turn is going to go a lot faster, which keeps the whole combat fast. Speaking of keeping combat fast, one of the biggest challenges we've found is getting the party engaged and aware and jumping in with it. So, here's something that our Dungeon Master did that I thought worked great. As soon as we go into combat, Everyone stand up, push your chairs in, and roll initiative. So we stood up, chairs went in, and then we rolled our initiative. From the standing position, phones were down, everybody was over the table, and it was like a war game where you're moving your piece, you're moving your mini, you're rolling your dice, boom. Moving your mini, rolling your dice, boom. And the fights, along with the party, moved fast. And that is such a great benefit to your game. If you can keep things rolling, then the whole battle is going to be way more interactive and way more intense. Another thing, there are many initiative systems, and I love so many different initiative systems. We've tried a ton of them, especially with other dungeon masters recommend online. But what we found is that with this sort of combat and keeping things moving, what you want to know is who's on deck. Keeping the initiative order secret or behind the DM screen can be a detriment when people are just sitting there on their phones. But if you can have cards out, or if you have some order set, or maybe just go around the table clockwise, you know when it's this person's turn, you're on deck. So you should better start deciding what you're going to do. Another thing that I highly recommend that I love is giving your party member 6 seconds to say what they're going to do. You've got 6 seconds. What are you doing? I'm going to shoot an arrow. If it takes longer than that to roll the die and make sure we know who is being attacked and that sort of thing, and add in different AC levels, okay, they kind of have cover. That's fine, but you want to make sure that they're making that decision quick. It's not like, okay, what do you do? What are my spells again? Oh, no, here we go. If that's the case, skip their turn. You take the dodge action next. You flinch. You got scared in combat. Something happened that distracted you. And we go on to the next person. If you can do that, you're going to keep the combat engaging and you're going to keep it fast. Forfeiting turns is huge. Knowing who's on deck is huge to keep things moving. And when your party's standing and they don't want to stand for that long, they're going to finish combat quick and they're going to stay focused. Then everybody can sit back down and we can finish off the night. A big part of pacing is ending the game where you want to. You don't have to necessarily have a specific ending. We could have done the whole wolf thing and then found out that the guys hadn't returned for a day and ended the night there, but we had a little bit of time, so we pushed on to that next event. At your game, you want to decide, okay, these are good points to cut off based on what time we have to play. Maybe I want them to finish everything and get back to the town. Maybe that just doesn't work out that way. It's okay either way, but you want to make sure that you have an ending either on a cliffhanger or on a positive pause. A positive pause is something that you would see in any sort of cartoon, maybe Avatar: The Last Airbender, where they save the town, everything's okay, and they fly away on the bison. That's a positive pause. You finish these events, you get back, you sit down at the tavern, you have a big cup of ale. That's a positive pause. That is a great way to finish. Or the cliffhanger. You make it into the mines. You find a room with blood across the floor. You walk in and find the 2 guards you're looking for slain with arrows in their chest and their back. And that's where we're going to call it tonight. This is a cliffhanger. Now, oh God, what happened? Who shot them? Was it the goblins that shot them with arrows? Or is there somebody else using the goblins as a cover? Who knows? Now we've got an opportunity to build a story next time and keep the party excited. Either way, it's great, but you want to make sure you have those clear cut points where, should I cut the game now? Is this the right spot? And if the game runs short, if you finish everything that you had planned and make it back to the tavern, you don't have to make up stuff on the fly. Tell them, congratulations, you guys crushed it. Awesome job. Everybody gets 100 experience. Let's call it there for tonight. Then hang out the rest of the night and tell stories. Talk about what your party wants to do, what your characters want to do. Say that that's what you're talking about at the tavern. You're all describing what your ideals are. You're sharing stuff with each other, remembering good times. Whatever the case, it can be a positive thing to have no more game to play that night. And that's fine too. But if you run for bigger parties, it's so important to keep the pacing high. Small parties, I think it's important too, but especially when you've got 7 or more people at your table. That's a lot to run for, and if you want more tips like this, be sure to like and subscribe this video. Again, I'm Cartoon Lark. I do videos for Dungeon Masters, I do videos for players, and I'm going to start a campaign diary for this campaign I was just discussing, where I'm actually a player in the campaign. So if you want to see how I set up my players, how I do voices, and how I build my character to push the story forward and really get into the Dungeon Master's plans, be sure to check out my other videos. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. All right, A, B, see ya. Cartoon Lark, let's go.